Welcome, everyone. We are here. It is April 10th. We're here for another episode. Excited to have our guest with us today, but we first have to do a little check in, make any announcements. Mandy, how was your weekend? Do you have a special announcement for us? What's going on?
I don't have any announcements. Hi, Amani. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I mean, I feel like you have an announcement because there's still some renovation. I feel like you should give your renovation disclaimer before I share about my
Right.
weekend.
Yes, renovation. So if you're in the chat, in the audience listening live or the recording, I'm having construction done at my home, so you might see some pounding, hear some pounding. Hope you don't see it throughout the show. So just keep that in mind. I'll try to do my best to mute when I'm not speaking. That is the construction disclaimer. But talk to us about we have a podcast now, Minnie. Tell us about that because
Yes,
you want to share that.
I do want to share that. Okay. Hot off the presses as of this weekend. This very show, all 19 episodes of this very show, Adventures in Business Live can now be found on your favorite podcast platform. So this is sort of an exercise in just repurposing content, which I just read that the other day. 71% of businesses that use social media for their business do not
Mm,
repurpose content, which is crazy to me. So we have all this great live stuff, and I know we share clips and stuff on social media, and now we've uploaded all the MP3 files to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. So if you don't want to watch us live, fine. If you don't want to watch us on the rewatch on LinkedIn, fine. But you can't escape us because now when you're walking your dog or you're cooking or you're driving, you can listen to us on a podcast. So that's hot off the presses. That just happened this weekend. That was a lot of work that I know, Amani, you did most of, or when I say most, I mean all of. So thank you for doing that. And I actually re-listened to a bunch of our episodes over the weekend, and I'm just really proud of us because our first couple episodes were not great. Like the audio wasn't great. We
mhm.
were talking over each other. We're kind of getting our stride, and then we're really getting better at it. I think that's just an example of just practicing live, kind of failing in public and learning with each show. I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm proud as well. We'll have all the episodes up there probably today or tomorrow, including this one. We have to say hello to, I hope I pronounced your name right, Dejana. I see you with us, Dejana Pagano in the chat. Carolyn Harris, welcome in. If you're here with us and have some questions that you want to ask our guest, please put it in the chat. Mandy, who are we going to be talking to today?
Oh, money. We've got a firecracker. We have Hildee Isaacs. So her name is Hildee and she sells swag. And we're gonna learn more about her. But I first met Hildee on Clubhouse and she has sent me swag. I've used her for events. Many people I know have used her for events. And not only does she know what's hip, what's new, what's interesting, she is a maven of knowing how to take care of different swag items, which as we know, when we travel, things get wrinkled. So I have so many questions for her and we should just bring her up. So Hildee, welcome to
She's
the
here.
stage.
Round of
Awesome.
applause for Hildee. Yes. Welcome to Adventures in Business. I always have
Hi.
some introspective questions to talk to and ask the guest. You're no different. I'm just curious, in this day and age, how would you define swag and how has it evolved over the years?
Well, over 100 years ago, it came out as called ad specialties. Talk about a grandpa term. And then it evolved into promotional products, which is how most of the people who do what I do call it. But that's too many syllables for me. So it was either merch, branded merch, or swag. And I don't know, I just coined the whole thing. Hi, I'm Hildee. I sell swag for a living, and it feels right to me.
Okay. What inspired you to get involved in such a niche kind of industry and you stayed in it for so long? Like, why do you stay and why did you get involved?
Ah, well, then you got to hear the whole story.
Oh,
Once
Tell us the
upon a
all
story.
time,
right. Let me get
Tell
my
us the
pillow and my
story.
popcorn.
once upon a time, I was living in New York. I went to NYU Film School and I graduated with a degree from NYU Film School, which is somewhere on the wall behind me. And when I graduated, well, while I was going to college, I always waitressed and bartended and hostessed. And I've got stories for days about all the celebs in Manhattan that I worked with, including the night that Jodie Foster and her girlfriend asked me to go home with them.
Wink.
Fun. That was fun. I was a hottie back in the day. Anywho,
You still are. You still are.
after I graduated NYU Film School, I got 3 great jobs in the film industry. Like, one of them was working on the movie Birdie with Matthew Modine and, Nicolas Cage, with directed by Alan Parker, and each time the assistant director said, "You need to sleep with me or you're no longer gonna work here." So
Hmm.
after that happened 3 times, including my dad getting me a job on a Sears commercial, and when the director there said that, I called my dad, I'm like, "Daddy, how could you do that to me?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, I knew I forgot to tell you something, but I figured you could handle yourself."
Oh my gosh. Which is both
Okay.
compliment
Mhm,
and, curse, I
mhm,
guess?
mhm. Yeah.
So, well, wait,
So
let's pause there. We have to pause there because when you have the 3 gentlemen that require you to have relations with them, how did you handle that? What did you do, and what advice would you have for females in the current day who are getting proposed the same way?
Or males, both can
or
work.
Yes,
yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, or theys. I mean, it's
Yes.
happening. I
Mhm.
wish I could say it isn't. It just happened to me last month at an event, and I didn't know how to handle it, just like I didn't then. I almost felt like a 21-year-old. It's really tricky because you don't want to get in trouble with if you're in the corporate world, you don't want to be called out as, oh, that person who has to make a big deal out of nothing. Just say no. So I'm not an expert in that. I can tell you though, I'm working on it right now. It just happened to me and I tried to solve it, and it's unsolvable. It's something like I have to feel like good old boys won again, and I'm just going to build a bridge and get over it.
Hmm. Okay, we'll come back to that. Continue to tell your story.
Okay.
We're gonna come back to that.
Okay. All right. So when I left that industry, I went into the garment center in Manhattan and I sold for quite a few different companies. And I knew I was good at sales. I'm a great talker. But the garment center in Manhattan, it's not as bad as the film industry, but it just wasn't a good fit for me. And I got very, very depressed and felt that New York was the reason I was so depressed. So my parents said, "You know what? We'll buy you a used car and a TV. We never sold your grandparents' retirement house in Florida. Why don't you just drive down there and see what happens?" So on my way, I stopped at a friend in Kentucky. And to get from Kentucky to Florida, you drive through Atlanta. I stopped in Atlanta to rest, and I never left.
Mm.
And I started out working in the restaurant industry here, managing and waitressing, and that went okay for a while. And then someone came to me and said, "Hey, there's this guy, this vegan, this weirdo vegan. I remember 25 years ago, and he wants to sell his business to someone for 500 bucks." So what was his business? He would wake up in the morning, make soups and sandwiches, pack up his car, drive into the city, and he would go from hair salon to hair salon, selling to the stylists and whoever was in their chair, because those are the people who were giving up their food to work. So that's what I did, and I turned that business and his recipes into a restaurant.
Mm.
And the restaurant was called Secret Garden Gourmet, and we're going back 23 years now. And I sold food that helps your body fight cancer and heart disease, which is my passion
Mm.
to this day. And I'm a really good cook. I lasted 9 months. I lost $100,000 because 22 years ago in Atlanta, no one cared about healthy food. The bigger the steak, the better.
Yes.
So when the business went belly up, the girl who sold me my embroidered apron said, "Come, I'll teach you the business. You can work for me." So
Mm.
I worked for her. She taught me this industry, which so many people don't know anything about. And it ended our friendship. It wasn't a good mix. And so from there, I worked for a baseball hat manufacturing company. So if anybody ever needs a baseball hat, I know everything from how to make it from a piece of fabric to a great cap. And working for a vendor didn't suit me. It was working really hard. I took my territory from 10,000 a year in sales to 1 million. They didn't compensate me. So I decided to flip and go to this side of the industry, which is usually 100% commission. And I've built up my business to, I sell over $1 million a year now in swag. And when you think the most things are under $1, that's a ton of stuff.
That's a
Wow.
lot of swag. That is a
Yeah,
lot of swag.
yeah.
I love your whole, and if you're not following Hildy, you got to follow her on LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram, because when she says, "My name is Hildy and I sell swag for a living," it rings a bell and you remember that she sells swag. But I think one of the greatest things that you do with your visual presence is you're physically showing people different trends, different tips. So can you just talk a little bit about how you went from running your business the way you're running it to incorporating some of the social media channels? Because this is something that every business owner that we talk to on here or off here, they're afraid. Like Amani and I were just talking earlier. It's like sometimes you have to explain to people, how do you share a repost on LinkedIn? How do you share something on Facebook? Like, we assume everybody knows how to do it, but like, it's a learning curve. So, like, how did you go from running your business one way to really kind of blowing up on social media and sharing your business?
So I incorporated my NYU film school and my love of film. And I thought, I miss it. I miss making movies. I miss all that stuff that I did so many years ago. So when I realized there is a free app that I could grab on my phone called CapCut, and within, I would say maybe a month, 2 months, I figured out a way to bang out my one, because I only post 1 minute a day. I
Mhm,
don't think that anybody wants to learn more than a minute a day about an industry that either you've never heard of or don't really care that much about.
mhm,
So I just started doing it. Now it takes me maybe 2 hours a week, 2 to 3 hours a week to post, to have 7 minutes done. So from creation to editing to getting ready to post. And then I don't do those. Some people say that they have them scheduled.
mhm,
I haven't done that yet, and I don't think I will, because LinkedIn, they want you to post things differently than TikTok, than Facebook, than Instagram. So the 20 to 30 minutes that I budget in the morning to do that, it's relaxing.
mhm. And you
And
enjoy it, and you enjoy it.
I
Yeah.
love it.
how has swag and physical swag, how do you continue to stay relevant when we're going so quickly towards a more digital era where people NFTs and things like that? How has swag and what have you seen in the industry to stay relevant when we're heading towards so much digital?
It's a great question. Relevant means everything different to every person. Amani, I bet your favorite thing that you were ever given is something completely different than Mandy's, completely different than mine. And whatever callers are on the call, if you post that question, everybody's going to have something else that they love. So just yesterday, I but I cannot do more than I can't spend more than $5 each. So you deal with someone who isn't me because I won't sell a $5 umbrella, but you deal
Mhm.
with somebody who will do anything for the sale. They take your client, let's just say it's Hewlett Packard's logo, and they print out 1,000 $5 umbrellas. Then all these people take those $5 umbrellas home. They get into a weather storm, and that $5 umbrella busts. They're wet. And what logo and who are they going to hate? They're going to reach out to
HP.
Hewlett Packard, right?
Mm.
And then Hewlett Packard's going to reach out to the Hildee and blame the Hildee. So I don't
Mhm.
even get involved in anything that I think that could be a detriment to a client's logo. Those are my two hard no's. And my yeses these days are the newer things. The thing that I told you that we're giving away at your event planner event, because that to me I tested it, I tried it, I tried to break it, it works. But even things like this, like I drink out of this all the time. And while it does say my information on one side, on the other side, if you're, I don't know, anybody who's into Dolly Parton, you know what this is. And it's fun.
I have one of those, and I actually drink. We went to see the wildflowers this weekend, and I brought my little cup of water with that with this cup of ambition about it. I'm gonna pause here for a second because what Hilda you may not know is that we lost broadcast for a second,
Yes, we
and
did.
now it looks like we're back, and I think we're good. But Amani, what did we miss, and do we need to repeat anything?
Okay, so let me
This
do
is
one thing
live.
real
This is
quick.
what live
Yeah,
looks like.
okay. This is fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. I'm not gonna refresh here, but what we do need to hold on, let me think here. Let me look here. I'm checking. Um
Maybe it
yeah.
was when me and you did that strip, Mandy. Maybe that's
Ah,
what they didn't
Oh,
check.
oh, you missed our dance, Amani.
yes. Yes. So hold on for a minute here. Let's see here. Uh yeah, we're live here. Chat's here. Okay. So we're still good live. We're gonna have to do some editing with the podcast thing. I think what we were talking about is okay, I'm green here. Is when I was asking, you were telling me how what's I asked you about the digital era, and you were saying what is important to me is very different from what's important to Mandy, what's important to you. So if we could maybe start back from there, just repeat your answer, and then I'll ask another question to follow up.
And then
Sure.
we'll dance again.
Okay. No, you snooze, you lose. Sorry. That was a one and done. Um, so what I was saying is, and it's frustrating to me when people on social media are like, Hildy, what's hot now? Hildy, what's new now? It depends. Do you want to spend $1? Do you want to spend $1,000? Are you somebody who works from home? Are you someone who travels all the time? Are you one of those executives who's been gifted everything under the rainbow and you need to think of something completely outside the box? So I was saying for me right now, under the table, Amani, very quiet, so you couldn't hear me. I'm popping bubbles because it keeps me grounded, focused, and not. Was that a pet?
Yeah, go ahead. No,
Hi.
no, it's fine.
Hi.
Don't worry. Go ahead. Keep going.
Hi.
Live.
So this is what I'm using currently, but pretty much every minute of the day. Remember, I was telling you that if you guys started to make me sweat, I was going to have to whip out my cooling towel. And I'm going to tell you, Amani, if you live anywhere where it's hot, you wet this thing, you wrap it around your neck, and it's like wearing air conditioning. And then it dries up, and you wet it again, and it keeps you cold. I can't live without this.
Oh my
I'll
God.
have one now until September or October in Atlanta, and I just keep it soaking wet. But you haven't made me sweat yet, so I haven't gotten it wet yet.
Okay. Soon though. Soon.
We need those. We need those for our HPN partner meeting in Tampa. We're going to be in Tampa in September. I envision needing those. That's a good tip.
It's a
I haven't seen those yet.
great. They're amazing. They've been around forever, but that doesn't mean anybody's shown them to you. I guess I have to do a TikTok on them.
Yeah, do TikTok. But what I was explaining, Amani, was that Hildy had sent me a box of swag, and one of the things I loved about it was it had this little meal prep container, and it was separated into two, and on the top it had a little spoon and a little fork, so it was travel. So when I get on the airplane, I don't like to eat airplane food, but if I'm gonna be traveling for 5 hours, like, I like to
Right.
bring my own healthy meal, and I do, and it just recently broke. I've used it so much in the short period of time you gave it to me, it broke, but it
Oh,
was my fault. I dropped it, and then I stepped on it on accident. It was just, like, a real quick thing. So it was my bad, totally my bad. But I love stuff like that, and you're right. Like, it really does depend on the person, and it depends on the usage. So, I wanna talk with you about quality because I know quality is more important than trend. So, can you just talk about, if you could share the umbrella story again that you just shared
Okay.
offline? That I think it explains a lot about your integrity with quality in your products.
Okay. So I was saying how I won't sell a $5 umbrella. And there are a ton of $5 umbrellas out there. But what I picture, and it's never happened to me because I won't sell a $5 umbrella, but picture this, Amani. Somebody gives you an umbrella and you don't know how much they paid for it, but it's got the Microsoft logo on it or it's got Apple, even better, right? If someone gave you an Apple umbrella, heck yeah, you're going to use it. So what if you're using this Apple umbrella and you're with a female friend and you're both under the umbrella because it's pouring rain and all of a sudden a wind comes and busts that umbrella. You're going to get wet. You're going to get angry. You're going to remember who gave it to you and that it's Apple. You're going to probably, either you or your companion are going to complain to the person who gave it to you, because that's our world. Why did you give me such a junky umbrella? And then that umbrella people, again, if it's Apple, they're going to be mortified. They're going to reach out to the idiot Hildee, not me, but the Hildee in their life that sold it to them and say, "Why'd you do that?" And of course, they're going to say, "Well, because you told me your budget's $5." Where what I do is, no, you're not spending. You can spend $10 on an umbrella that has a lifetime warranty. Ah, that makes sense to me.
Mm,
mm,
that's important.
okay,
Yeah, that's
good.
important because 'cause we're all buying that stuff now, and I think I say this all the time. We have so many branded phone chargers, and those phone and every hotel gives them to me, and I'm so grateful for every piece of swag I get. I love it, and I share it, but some of those phone chargers last an hour, and then it's no different than your actual phone charge itself. So, the quality is important. That's a great question to ask when we're shopping for swag.
For
Okay,
sure.
okay. Thank you for sharing that story. Now, like TikTok, eh, how did you get into TikTok? How has it benefited your business? And how have you made yourself, and I see your question in the chat, Vicky, I'll get to you next. How have you made yourself relevant on TikTok when it's really probably a much younger demographic where their targets are?
Oh, I'm young.
Well, I say younger. I know you're young, but much younger. At least you can drink legally, so that's a little.
All right. Complete candor. I
Yes,
do not see any benefit to my business on posting my 1-minute videos. I
really.
do it to nourish the creativity in my soul that wants to make videos like I went to college for. I
Hmm.
say clearly on Instagram and TikTok, I am here to teach you about my industry and the perfect blend of marketing, creativity, and sales. Most of the world has never heard of my industry. I was on a call this morning with a girl who does gift baskets. And for 30 minutes, I tried to explain to her why she needs to be in my industry if she's going to do gift baskets with swag on it. Never knew it existed. So if I can teach the world about our industry and I benefit, great. If not, please can just everybody start learning that there's a great industry out there for people who want to do marketing and sales and want to have something more three-dimensional than what do you call it, social media marketing. Like there's a whole world of three-dimensional marketing out there that is so much fun. And for me, my closure on this is I'm very bossy. I don't let my customers spend their money. I'm telling them how to spend their money always. And if they don't like it, they can go find somebody else.
Okay, okay. Great answer. That's interesting. I'm gonna come back to that one, but let's get to Vicky's question in the chat. Thank you, Vicky. She says, "Are there tips or tricks you use to evaluate or learn about your client audience to best understand who a client is, and therefore what swag would work for them and their campaign or event?
Excellent question. And I am, again, not the norm. Most people do a deep dive into what's your end goal? What are you trying to get out of this event? Who's going to your event? What are they like? I don't do it that way. I mean, recently there was a major automotive company who came to me and they were doing social change in 4 different cities in the country. And the event planner sits with me and she's like, I want everything to be about driving and steering wheels. I'm like, no, you want everything to fit in the box that we're going to be giving out. And when you realize that it's more about reusing and repurposing and recycling and sustainability, and you switch your thought of instead of it being themed perfectly, let it be something people will talk about for one reason or another, whether it's the message on the cup. Poured myself a cup of ambition. There's so many, we could spend an hour just talking about all the things about poured myself a cup of ambition, or whether it's 2023. Each item that's given away should either be a tree planted or a donation made or pulled out of the ocean. So again, I'm really bossy and I won't go to that whole what's the theme? Who are you giving it away to? I just say if your budget is $10, here are my top 10 favorites. And that's why not everybody likes me and not everybody will work with me, and that's okay.
Mm,
I think though people are moving at such a fast pace right now that I think people like to hear your recommendations, right? They lean into your expertise and not everybody. I know me as a buyer of swag for many, many meetings and conferences. I don't want to go through that whole qualifying call. I don't have time for it. I don't have time for that email. And so I think I really value that you are like, what's your budget? $10. Here's the top 10 things I love. If something I love isn't in that top 10, I'm going to ask you, what are your next top 10 things? Because I'm a buyer, right? And I think a lot of planners in the industry are buyers and that's how they buy. So I think there's a lot of value in guiding people to a decision in a quicker way because they need to move fast. Like this is just one of the many things for their events that they need to do. So I really appreciate that about your style.
Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah. What like since you mentioned your top 10, what are some newer pieces of swag that have quickly risen to be in your top 5 or 10? And what do you think is coming next, which we should really kind of keep an eye on in terms of swag?
What's coming next is what's been hot the last, let's say, year to 2 years, the eco, the pulling things out of the ocean, the give back to somewhere, whether it's Wounded Warrior or ASPCA. I know it probably was 10 years ago that instead of giving out Christmas gifts to my top connections, I made a donation to Make a Wish Foundation. And so each person got a handwritten letter from Make a Wish thanking them because I donated for them. So it doesn't always have to be swag. While I do believe in swag, it doesn't always have to be something that has a logo on it. If you I mean, I teach a class in how to give a gift, excuse me, to someone that they because you can't afford. Not everybody can afford me, right? If I'm selling over $1 million a year, I'm not looking for the person who wants to spend $100 on one gift. But there are so many great ideas out there that will really mean a lot to people. One of my favorites is this company called Blooms by Hainu. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it is flowers fresh flowers, usually roses, that they treat that stay fresh for over a year.
Hmm.
Mm,
Now,
Is
if
wow.
that
you
a
haven't
seed packet or like how do
No,
you get
no,
that?
no, no. I have them upstairs. They're roses. They come roses and they're about, let's say, that big, but the box they come in is that big because they want to make sure it gets to you fresh and safe. And you just leave them on the counter. They've been treated so that you get have fresh roses sitting on your counter or your desk or wherever for over a year. Mine are at least a
Ooh.
year and a half.
Ooh, it's Blooms by Hainu?
Heineu. I mean, there are a couple of knockoffs, and I saw Costco had 24 red roses like that right before Valentine's. They're $150 for like a
Mhm.
decent bouquet. But I'm just very super creative. I love gifting ideas. So if anybody ever on a call wants to reach out to me and be like, I need something for my husband, and he's the worst at gifting. I got you. I just have ideas that have nothing to do with branding, and you
Yeah.
don't buy it through me. I just love gifting and I'm good at it.
So we pulled up the website for Blooms by Hanu. So if you're watching, you can see it live here. Keep going, Mandy. I know you have another question, but very interesting. Wow.
Right?
Well,
They're
I wanna know
beautiful.
what's the best gift someone's ever given you in a business
Yes.
setting?
In the swag world?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm gonna do low hanging fruit. My boss this year gave all of us the refresh glass. Have you heard of refresh glass?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
No.
So it's a company based, I think, in either Nevada or California, where they rescue empty wine bottles from restaurants, and they repurpose them either into rocks glasses or drinking glasses. And they're laser etched. So one side could be a logo, but I always tell my clients, don't do logos, just have each one personalized for each person. And you can get a set of one, two, four. You can get the high boys and the low boys. You can get them all mixed greens, clear, blue. And that to me, the fact that we're rescuing wine bottles from going to the landfill and making them right into wine glasses, I just think that's a huge wow.
Yeah, that is a huge wow. Super cool.
wow. Yeah, we pull up this website also. You're just dropping gem after gem on us here. Interesting, fascinating here.
See,
Uh,
Amani, if you were really my friend, you would have found my TikTok on the refresh glass, and then
Oh!
you could show everybody the actual glasses that my boss gave me because I did do a 1 minute TikTok on it, and they're really nice.
we might get to the TikTok here, but we
Okay.
just go to the website to the interview. We
Alright.
got a lot going on here, but I'm
Alright.
gonna follow you on TikTok because I don't do
Please.
much there.
Okay.
In terms of business, you've worked in a variety of kind of companies and industries. Actually, let me pause. I'm gonna come back to that one. Carolyn Harris has a question. She wants to know, and thank you, Carolyn, for this question. How did you build that relationship with Make a Wish?
Oh, I didn't. I just called them up and I said, "I wanna make a donation." They're like, "Okay." And I said, "Here are the rules. I'm willing to give you," and again, this was 5 or 10 years ago. I said, "I'll give you whatever, 25 a person, print out letters with all these people's names and mail them to me." They're like, "No problem." And that's how I did it. And then I made a donation.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's easy.
Yeah, and I did that this past year too. I love that. I did that this past year, Carolyn. I donated to Junior Achievement of San Diego, and I did it in my clients' names. Some of my top 10 clients, I did that in their name, and then I sent the email out to my clients. But it's the same thing. It's like these organizations want your money and you're helping, and it's such a better way to spend the holidays. It's great to give gifts, and it's great to supplement it with some sort of cool donation like that too. I'm with you on that, Hildy.
Absolutely. And I have one client who used to buy holiday gifts from me. In the last 3 or 4 years, they said, "We're not doing it anymore. We're making donations." I'm like, "I am totally cool with that." And that was like a $20,000 order. I'm like,
Hmm.
"Donate, donate, donate. Eventually they'll come back for holidays or they won't. I don't care. I love them. I love my clients." And that is something I want to talk about. I block people if they're not yummy human beings. I don't want to work with anybody who isn't delicious.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Like, can you give a story? Because this is a topic that comes up in our room all the time about firing clients or setting boundaries with clients. So can you share that story? You don't have to say the client, obviously, but just share that story. Like, what happened? What was the incident? And that what did you do? How did you part ways?
There's a few of them. The one that I blocked was someone that they hired maybe an 18-year-old or a discounter to create a logo. It was a horrible logo. They wanted things embroidered. In order for it to embroider well, it would have had to have been like it was awful because embroidery letters, horrible. So these days I don't even do it. Like on my shirt, this is a heat transfer and it looks just so much crisper and much more modern than embroidery. That's another thing that's out. Embroidery's out, out, unless it's big and wow. I mean, once in a while it's okay. But anyway, so this person kept reaching out to me and I kept saying, I'm not embroidering your logo. It's not going to look good. I'll tell you what, I'll get you some samples. So I went to one of my vendors. I spent $100 giving them 2 free jacket samples. They never even acknowledged they got it. About 6 months later, they're like, hey, we need 6 hats and we need them next week. I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And they
Wow.
said, all right, well, can we have samples of A, B, and C? So after I spent about $200 to $300 on samples and they didn't give me orders, but they kept calling me and asking for rush, I just first I tried to refer them to a colleague and they said, no, we don't want anybody but you. But they weren't ordering from me. They were just
Mm.
sucking me dry. So
Mhm.
finally, the last time he sent me an email, asked me a question, I blocked him on my email, I blocked him on my phone. And then I was in Vegas for work and my phone rang. So I'm like, hi, this is Hildee. Excuse me. They're like, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. And blah, blah, blah referred me. I'm like, ah, yeah, can you do business cards? No, sorry, I'm sorry. I don't do business cards. But if you'd like other things, send me an email. It was lovely chatting with you. And I have a feeling that they made him call me just to see if my phone was broken.
Mm,
Horrible.
mm,
I think it's powerful though to make space for customers that appreciate you and make space for customers you're actually doing great work with. It's necessary to set some boundaries or block or fire other customers sometimes. So, yeah, I'm
yeah.
glad to hear that.
W What is your definition of a yummy customer?
Ooh.
So good. Such a good question. Um, kind, funny, adores me, which is pretty easy to do, but someone who opens up and will share with me more than just business, whether it's that they broke a nail or whether they're having emotional troubles. People just really trust me and they want to open up to me. I I've got to be honest, most of my customers I adore. And there's one recently that didn't order from me for their usual events that they've been doing for 10 years. And I don't sleep at night because it's inappropriate for me to reach out to them and be like, why didn't you order from me this year? I just keep saying every day because my heart hurts. My heart hurts that I made some mistakes last year. I did. I own it. I made mistakes. I tried my best to apologize, but they just, it's almost like, what is it? No soup for you. So I'm not getting their soup. And every day I just keep saying, whomever they chose to order from, they're not me. And I can only hope that they realize how good they have it with me and they'll come back to me. But it's hurting. It's like half my business. So Amani, I'm hurting.
Well, okay, so in that instance, what and I'll translate this to another question, like, in your years of experience, what are some of the most valuable business lessons you've learned? And for this specific example, what are you doing to try to replace that business so you hurt a little less?
Ugh. I'm asking for referrals everywhere, anytime, being brutally honest, telling people I made the mistakes. It was 10 years. Usually after 10 years, people try other things. I am doing the 1 minute videos just again to see if that eventually look for sure people are reaching out to me and be like, hey, can I buy one? And so that's why I just keep trying to teach people, no, that's not what I'm looking for. The lesson I learned, and I did what Mandy does good, which is I delegated and I hired someone to create a spreadsheet because this client needed 1,200 jackets to be individually shipped all over the world. And I hired someone to create that spreadsheet and paid that. Maybe actually she never charged me, but she said, "Here's your spreadsheet. This was really hard. I don't think I can do this again." And so I gave that to the vendor to ship out, and she had mixed up who should get a medium, who should get a
Oh,
large, who should get an extra large. And yeah, that was the end of that because I
mm,
couldn't, like, I started trying to figure out, all right, well, the guy in Turkey, he got a large, and the guy in India, it was horrible. And to this day, I still can't understand how to create spreadsheets for myself. So I have found somebody now in my life who's very good at spreadsheets who can do that for me. Because if you're really creative, you can't do spreadsheets as well. You can't do everything.
You
Right.
can't do everything. And I think that's a good business lesson of outsource what you can't do. And you're gonna make a lot of mistakes until you find the right one, when you outsource. That's just part of business, right? And now
Yeah.
you have somebody that works and that's great, but you probably had to trip and fall a little bit until you found the right one.
Trip and fall in my family. I mean, I we have cut back on finances. Like last year, it was living in the high life, and this year we don't go out for dinner. I went out for dinner for my birthday, January 20th, and since then we don't go.
Mm. Okay, so that's like real life. That's well, thank you
Mhm.
for sharing and being very transparent with us. Um a question from the chat here. Carolyn Harris wants to know, when clients call in, what questions do they typically ask you the most?
What's new? What's hot?
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Most of my clients, I mean, a lot are event driven, like a lot of it, right? Because I'm only dealing with the corporate world. So I'm dealing with the HR, the human resources department, the marketing department, and maybe the safety or procurement. So they want to know if it's polo shirts. They're trying to find a polo shirt that's moisture wicking, that's got UV protection, that won't shrink. Maybe it won't pull because these days everybody's wearing polyester and is reasonably cooling. If they want to know about t-shirts, then they're talking more about, the 100% cotton that feels soft. Then when they're imprinted, it doesn't feel like there's a band-aid on their chest. If it's a pen, they want something that won't dry up after a year, although most do. They want blue ink, and they want to know that it feels right, that it's got like a mix, let's say, between a gel and an ink cartridge. If it's drinkware, it's dishwasher safe and it's not something that will die in the dishwasher. I mean, I can go on and on. If it's a lanyard, it needs to be a certain length and a certain width. And my industry is, it's huge. I don't know if you saw, but I did stand up paddle boards. You can buy stand up
Yeah.
paddle boards fully branded. I mean,
Yeah.
that's super cool.
That's super cool. I saw that. I want to, I know you said you haven't gotten anything yet from your TikToks, but I might rebut that because I think what you do on your TikToks and Instagram Reels is that you're educating people. And I think that's so much more important than just saying, hey, buy, 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 right? Like, can you share? I think one of the greatest TikToks you did was, can you share about how you showed everybody the proper way to fold a sweatshirt? I thought that was awesome because not only I was just mesmerized watching because I clearly have been folding sweatshirts the wrong way forever, but I was like, I was looking at the quality. I'm like, oh, if I need a whole bunch of sweatshirts, Hildee's the person to go to someday. So can you talk about the proper way to fold a sweatshirt?
I mean, it's hard to talk about it. Gosh, even I couldn't even hold it up. But I
Mhm.
guess, all right, fine. Make me go back to when I was in high school and I used to be in theater. So you take a hoodie and you lay it backwards on a table, and you take one sleeve and fold it in, the other sleeve fold it in, take the bottom, fold it, tuck it, and then you use the hood to stuff everything into it. And then it's a nice, neat little pouch that you can pile up pouches in a drawer, as opposed to, I wouldn't hang them in the closet because to me they're too thick and take up too much room. And I don't like folding them in a drawer because, again, this just makes them nicely pouchy. And I wanted to
Mhm.
tell both of you, because I do see behind Amani both of your books. That's another thing in my industry. Everybody sells books through my industry branded. So I've got a vendor who takes books that they can order on Amazon or order direct from you, and they can either just imprint on the outside of the book, they can add a page. My industry is super cool.
What do they imprint on the outside of the book? That's interesting.
So if they're doing the outside of the book, they're going to take the company logo, again, let's say it's Hewlett Packard, and just print it on the book.
Interesting. Yeah, I've
Hmm.
seen the sleeves that go around the book before. And I've seen the logos on that, but adding a page, what do they do when they're adding a page? That's interesting.
They glue it in,
Oh, what does the page say? Just their
whatever the
logo? What
client
is
wants it to say.
Yeah,
It
that's
could be
interesting.
why they picked this book, or thank you for attending our event. It could be, here's notes to take because we're going to talk about the book during our event.
Mm, very cool. I love that. That's super interesting. What about for in terms of your business? Like, where do you see it going in the future? I mean, is this here to stay? Is there anything that's dying off, or where do you see the nature of this business going?
Promotional products started over 100 years ago when somebody walked into a calendar company and said, "Hey, can I put my logo on that calendar?"
Hmm.
I don't see it going away anytime because people do love gifts and people do want to be able to promote some way that doesn't feel salesy. It's not a billboard, it's not a commercial, it's not a social media ad. It's something purposeful and useful. I'm about to do a post on these things. They're called Chipolos, and it's like an Apple AirTag or the Tile, and to be able to brand the backside and know that I can stick it in my suitcase. I mean, there's so many whatever comes out. I did a TikTok a few weeks ago. There's glasses now.
Hmm.
Did you see those? The
No.
glasses are like your oh my god, they're amazing. I tested them while I was in Florida at an event, and they're glasses that have your earbuds in them. So you hear music in your head, but it's going through your glasses. Genius.
Oh, that's super interesting. Okay,
Sunglasses and prescription, yeah.
can you
That's
share
cool.
too, because you're an event partner for our annual WeCon, our MPI Southern California WeCon event, May 10th through 12th in Palm Springs, and you were kind enough to share some new piece of swag. So can you share what that is and how people can use it? Because I'm personally, every attendee that goes to this event is going to get one, and I'm personally very excited about that.
And they arrived because I got mine after yours because they shipped out of California.
Oh,
So
yay.
they're in a retail box, which I think is also really important in my industry. No more white tuck boxes. That is just such a waste. So
Mm-hmm.
it is, and you can find this. I posted this on anytime I post Amani on TikTok. It's also LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. I just do them all. It's just
Mhm.
TikTok. I find it's easy to see everything. So this is a universal cell phone mount holder, meaning like you see in the picture, it can stand up and hold your phone. It can, let's see if you could see that.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Connect to, like, a
Okay.
desk or whatever.
I've attached it to my luggage handle when I was sitting at the airport. I can attach it to the tray table. I can, even if the tray table is closed and it's like a piece, but Amani, I want you to
Yes.
answer this one first. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready, yes.
Okay. What is a memory from elementary, middle, or high school that you don't mind sharing with us?
Oh.
Mhm. A memory from, mm, elementary school, middle school, or high school? I remember I was in middle school, I was in Mrs. Smith, who was one of my favorite teachers of all time, math class, and we were watching the space shuttle go up with Kristen McAuliffe, I think that's her first name,
Mm.
when it blew up, and she left the classroom in tears, and I
Mm.
didn't like, I just never forget that because, I'll never forget that just from how you expect your teacher to be like a symbol of, like, strength and never wavering, and she, like, immediately started to cry and left, and that really, really affected me.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But you haven't thought about that in a long time, so I'm glad I was able to bring that to your heart.
Yes, yes, yes. Mandy's turn.
Mandy's turn.
God. I was gonna say I remember that exact moment, and I don't remember my teacher leaving, so she must have had blood in her veins or ice in her blood.
I see.
Yeah, but I do remember that moment. I remember all of us watching the TV, and I was in 5th grade. Amani, what grade were you in when that happened?
6th grade, 6th
Yeah,
grade.
it was yeah.
Yeah.
No, the first thing that comes to mind when you say that, Hildy, is I was in high school and a fight broke out in the hallways of North Charleston High School. It was a girl fight. It was one of my best girlfriends. And I am not a fighter. But and my girlfriend wasn't a fighter either, but they were both, in love with the boy, and they started fighting about a boy, they started yelling, and all of a sudden they started just shoving and pushing each other. And I think a better human being probably would have gotten the teacher or just pulled my friend off, but I was so afraid. And I was the president of the Spanish club at the time, and I had all these suckers that I had to sell. So I was like, here's a crowd. And I was just selling suckers. I was selling blow pops like 25 cents. Like, who wants a blow pop? Who wants a blow pop? And then once they were all sold, I went and got Frau Periano. And I'm like, there's a fight. Luckily, nobody was hurt. Everybody was fine. But it's like one of those moments I'm not proud of, but it's also a moment of like, as a salesperson, I think I should have. I saw a crowd. I sold the suckers. We raised the money, and it was probably like my first moment of like I love sales. I love gatherings, and it was probably the first time I understood that. I realized that, and yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind when you said that.
Wow. You know
Yeah.
what I forgot to tell you guys, which I will be in trouble if anybody ever watches this and I didn't say. I've been married for over 22 years for a man who was born and raised in South Africa. So, yes, he comes with the great accent. And we have
Mhm.
one son. He's at his first year at Kennesaw State University. And I think he's majoring in how to live off his mother the rest of his life. So, I just
Um,
knew.
well, I wanna ask about that because you do a lot with work, and there is always that balance between mothering and wifing, and I don't know if you have any animals and
Mm-mm.
have if you have any parents or anybody else that you take care of, but what are some like, what do you do to keep it all straight? Because 'Cause we're all struggling through that, and, um, I think anybody appreciates any tips that we can get from that.
I own the mornings, so I usually
Mm.
get up between 5 and 6. I, put on Oculus, which is the VR headset. I do 20 minutes to an hour of cardio using this amazing app in there called Supernatural. I then twice a week at least go to a gym that focuses on older people and making sure they're lifting weights safely. I work out, or I'm walking or running or biking every single day. I won't take a call before 10 a.m. So that gives me time to really exercise, wind down. I don't eat every day until at least 4 o'clock. I'm an intermittent faster, been doing it for years. That also keeps me healthy and energized. But I have to keep asking you questions. You're not allowed to ask me questions.
Oh, bounce it back.
Which my next one is a really important one. I've never been to Europe. Both my husband and I turned 60 this year. So for our present, we are going to Italy for 3 weeks. And while I have hired a travel agent and she's booked us in, so we're doing a slowcation 3 weeks, Northern Italy. If either one of you have any tips, whether it's a travel tip or whether it's if you're in Northern Italy, you have to do this, just remember both my husband and I were anti churches, anti ruins, anti museums. We want to be outside. Go. Mandy first.
Mandy's gonna be the only one because I have no clue, no tips for you here.
Well, I will say we went to Lake Como over Christmas, and that was my favorite part of the whole working town. It's very similar to how, Lake Tahoe is. People in San Francisco go to Lake Tahoe for vacation. Everybody thinks Lake Como is the super wealthy spot, and yes, there's a ton of beautiful homes and everything, but to me, it felt like a working town. There's a lot of great people there doing a lot of great things. The food and beverage is awesome, but it's really hard to wander around Lake Como and not stroll into a wine bar where it's been in the family for centuries, and you've got like Francesca and Antonio, who are the son of Francesca Senior, and and it's just it's a really cool part of Italy. It's in northern Italy, and the food there feels a little bit different because it's so close to Switzerland that you get the different type of cheese, you get the different type of capers, and if you feel like it while you're there, there's a really cool train that wanders over to Switzerland as well. So I would pop into Lake Como for sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
Amani, are you saying you don't travel? Is that what I'm
I'm
hinting at?
saying
What?
I haven't been to Northern Italy before, but what I will say that maybe if since you like to be outside, do you like football or soccer as they call it here? Are you fans of that? No? Okay,
No.
never mind. I'm
We would
all
do
out of
food.
suggestions.
We would definitely do food tours or truffle
Right.
tours or wine tours or hiking, biking,
Yeah.
anything.
Nope. I've got
Your
nothing for
favorite
you
travel
there.
tip when you do travel, something you
Nope.
always make sure you do?
I always bring a couple good books. I always what else do I do? I'll always print out an itinerary in case phones are like down or whatever. So I do
Oh,
that.
that's a good tip.
That's probably my top two tips. And then always have like a backup hotel or place to live in case something, like in case you get overbooked at your hotel, they try to walk you or things like that. Have a place where you're like, look, I really want to go here if I can't stay here.
Okay, that's a good tip. All right, I have another question. What
Okay.
are you looking at right now beyond your camera laptop view?
So for me, I have a camera here, a ring light, a monitor, a clock,
Behind that, behind all that,
a wall. It's just a blank wall.
just a blank wall?
It's a blank wall. Yeah, I haven't decorated. I just moved my studio from one area to another area, so I haven't quite decorated it yet. But I'm working on it. This question will be more inspiration for me to continue to decorate.
I always assume
Wow.
people are in front of a window for good lighting.
Yeah, no, ring light right here. Ring light.
All right. Mandy?
Man.
Well, it's funny because I'm looking at a lot just beyond my wall. I have a quote up. It's a quote from my book, but it's just a reminder to me in terms of who I do business with is surround yourself with people who want to move their lives forward in a productive and joyful way. There's a quote. Then I have 3 rules of taking new clients poster. It's one is must be a decision maker. The second one is must have alignment with their CFO or their general counsel. The third one is they must take direction when off track and they have to trust my expertise. Those are my 3 rules of taking new business.
Very similar to
It's just
mine.
a reminder. And then I have I actually have one during my book tour last year. This is actually the 1 year anniversary of my book tour. We had some arts and crafts table at one of the Barnes and Noble events, and one of the girls, a little girl, she was 7 years old, named Lily, created a little watercolor of the cover of my book, which
Mm,
was awesome, and it's so cool. And so I have it framed. I'm looking at it, and then I have the newspaper article of the cover of the Plain Dealer says, "Believe it," from when LeBron James took the Cleveland Cavaliers to our first championship. Those are
yes,
all the things I'm looking
That's
at right now
awesome.
behind the screen. Yeah.
it's
I'm
good
always
inspiration.
curious about that. That
I
yeah,
have to.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good inspiration. Mandy
You
sent
know what
me
I'd
this.
like?
Have
I
that
want
up.
I know what I want, Amani. I want you to go online and order one of those neon signs and have it created on the title of your last book.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
DJ's
See,
mean
That's what I want.
business.
DJ's good
Oh.
this. Okay, and put that up behind me though. You want that behind me, right?
No.
In front of me?
Well, I
Why?
don't know. I mean, if your background is your background and you're set on that, because a neon behind you being the NYU degree, it would
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
little distracting. But if it was in front of you and it was a white neon, it would light your face nicely and it should inspire you.
Okay. If you
Make it
can
be
send me a
about
link,
you, not the audience.
if you could send a link where you recommend I get it from, I will make that happen. Like, please use me. I'm trying to redecorate this area. It's a work in progress,
Yeah.
changing the
Yeah.
energy.
Not a
Uh,
big one. Make it like, I don't know, 2 to 3 feet. Don't make it your whole wall because there should be other things on the wall like Mandy has. So pulls from different parts of your brain. Mandy, I would add to one more of those, and I don't know how easy it is for you, but for me, it's very easy. Whenever I get a new referral, the first thing I do is I get their bill to address, and I have Geiger do a Dun and Bradstreet, do a credit check on them, and if they say no, they have no credit, then I will try not to do business with them. Yeah,
tip,
Mm.
I need to know that Geiger tells me if they pay their bills, that they'll give them at least a $5,000 line of credit, if not nothing else.
Ah,
And then,
boom.
have you ever heard the expression R&D?
Yeah.
What is it?
Research and development. But I guess you're going to tell me another reason for it.
I use it as rip off and duplicate. And I'd love for you to rip off and duplicate anything I've taught you today. Plus, I'm not big on YouTube at all, but I did put up there what something I invented called the Apple Tickle. And it's a way where you can create your business card on your iPhone. And once you've done it once, it is so much better than handing out a business card where there's so many chances that people won't put them in your phone. So if you go on YouTube and you put in Hildee Apple Tickle, and don't do the one for the Badass Business Summit, but there's another one, it's like 5 minutes long. Or you can call me later and be like, can you teach me the Apple Tickle? And I can do it quickly. But those
okay.
those are my final thoughts.
I like
R&D, And
Yes.
D R&D and D&B.
One final thought. We have to ask you if you're going to go back to when you first graduated from NYU, give yourself advice based on everything you've learned so far to date. Now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Um, Trying to kill yourself doesn't solve anything. The sun always comes out the next day, and you have to go through hard things in life to be pushed through and make yourself unique, special, and strong.
Okay. I think
That's
that is
powerful. I love
a
that.
moment to end the show. Um, yes. So we'll end the show there. We have your LinkedIn where everyone can reach you. Thank you for being very transparent, having such great advice, being the true firecracker that Mandy said you were going to be. Um,
Firecracker.
yes, firecracker. And I can't wait to see you or hopefully see your products at WeCon and to work with you in the future.
Yeah.